Bonjour, everybody. Hey. Hope you guys are doing alright. As promised, I'm very spontaneous with these things, so bear with me, but I hope I sound alright. I think I sound alright. The sound on my, whatchamacallit, and all that on my OBS look pretty solid, so I'm going to assume it's worked out. But, hello everybody, Dre here, from Motorsport 101, as of course. I hope you guys are doing alright. Let me know if you guys are having a good one. Merry Christmas, of course. Happy holidays if you're, not celebrating Christmas, and if you don't like happy holidays, you can kiss my ass. But I hope you guys are doing alright. Let me know if I sound alright and everything is all cool. Audio is a little, could be louder. Okay, I'll see what I can do here. Okay, is that better, audio-wise? For some reason my mic was automatically clocked in at -11, and I don't know why that was on OBS, but let me know if that's okay, or a bit better. I hope so. But, yeah, let me know if everything is cool. Brilliant, yeah, all good. Just keep me posted on that. Yeah, much better. Sweet. Good. I didn't break OBS for the first time. That's useful. Just gonna do a little bit more sharing on social media and all that before I properly get into it. But, we'll see how we go. But yeah, just gonna put this link out here one more time. Please the noise. I've got a new keyboard for Christmas. Perfect. Sweet. Excellent. Glad to hear we're all alright. Thanks to Jason for plugging the links. Much appreciated. Hello, chat. 17 of you in here already. Holy crap. Thanks, guys. That's very kind of you. Yeah, so let's just catch up on the comments here. Hi, Jason. Hi, Andrew. Hi, you there. Nice to see you. Sportology. Good to see you, sir. Or madam, I don't know how you identify, so forgive me for that. I'm just going by username here. Owen, good to see you, man. My Irish brother. Libby is here. Hello, Libby. Nice to see you. Just like you promised on Twitter. That's very sweet of you. Merry Christmas, everybody. Hope you guys are having a good time. For those guys that maybe are just watching for the first time, this is honestly just me chatting for the next couple of hours with you guys, because you guys always seem to like it. Also, yes, that is one corner. Yeah, it is a fire in the background. It's off my TV. I'm borrowing it from Sean Evans' YouTube channel from Hot Ones. He had this really great 3-hour Christmas fire in the background, and I thought it would be appropriate. Because the funny thing is that when I used to have my old setup, when I used to do these before, I was pointing at this corner of my bedroom over here. So the camera would be pointing out towards my back wall where all my football jerseys are. So it'll look a little bit like this. That was my old angle, basically. I've moved my desk around now so you can actually see a bit more of my actual room space and my TV where it normally is over there. So Did a little bit of rearranging. It actually looks a bit better this way. Forgive my horribly messy top of my wardrobes back there, but besides that, it's great. But yeah, at least it's not a burning Bray Wyatt doll. Yeah, you know. Hello, Gibran. Nice to see you. Oh, sir, depressed Ilot fan on Discord. Yes, Colton. Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. Just fake links because I'm not on board and I don't want to be banned. Jason, you are now a moderator, my friend, because I actually know you can handle some of that shit. So, by all means, post links. He was posting the social media, so just I'll get that out of the way. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can, at Harrison101HD. Although, to be fair, if you're watching this, you probably already do. And they're on Instagram as well, at Motorsport101pod, if you want some behind-the-scenes video footage, up notifications when the episodes go up, and whatnot. That would be great. We still have, I think, 4 more episodes, or 3 or 4 more episodes to put out from the end of last season. We're still catching up with. So forgive us on delays on that, but we are going to catch up over the off season, definitely, and just work on some little improvements. I'll talk more about that, pardon me, later on, but yes, hopefully that'll be worked on in the going forward and whatnot. But yeah, I'm just gonna pop up my chat and stick that on my OBS window. Lovely. Yes. Perfect. Yeah. Hi Finley, good to see you from the Discord. Watching you and having Wolves Spurs in the background. Nice double dip in there, Andrew. Much appreciated. The Shuckle has powers. Yeah, I actually trust the Shuckle, unlike you, Toki. Instagram now with cuffing season. What else could you want? A girlfriend, maybe? Someone to bring home? Something we can't do, given tier 4 restrictions? I guess. But yeah, man, I hope you guys are doing great. If you guys have got questions or stuff you want me to talk about over the next couple of hours, just hit up the chat and I'll see what I can do. Yeah, so he's saying, I spot a Hamilton 2020 helmet in the background. Easily Hamilton's best design. Yes, it is. Quite right. Well spotted, he's there. That is. Hamilton's, it's 1x2 obviously, but I collect, as you can see from above my head, there's about 25 of them up there. I haven't really got the room to put them all out properly, but this one is special. This is indeed Hamilton's 2020 helmet design from this season. It is beautiful, and I don't know if you can see it from here, but I'm going to try and get it close to the camera. It sparkles as well. It's got glitter in the paint, just like the real thing. The 6 stars down the side for his 6 world titles, obviously that's now 7. I wonder if we'll keep it for 2021 with the gold trim on it for 7 titles instead. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it's a beautiful design. It's probably my favourite Hamilton design he's ever had, and of course with the historical significance, I felt like I had to have it. So that's a little showcase for you. Big shout out to Glenn, a friend of mine on Twitter, that hooked me up with his pre-order, because I missed the pre-order invoice for it on DRM, and he actually very generously gave me his. So I'm very grateful for him for that one. They'd be saying a government ban on dating. Basically, I mean, I've had dates on Zoom, believe it or not, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's not quite the same, certainly, but I am very single anyway, so don't worry. You're not missing out on anything over here. And look, I'm in tier 4 right now anyway, so for those guys who don't know, I live in West London, so that that is off the table. So I wouldn't worry too much. I've got this in the background. Also, Evan in the chat saying, I've got this in the background while I'm editing the worst interview ever made and planning to run an uber cursed Grand Prix 4 AI only season. That is uber cursed. Oof, lordy. Good luck with that one, buddy. Andrew saying, oh man, the last year of my life has been wasted on a girl and now I regret it. I'm going to be stuck to the inevitability of F1 for a while. Look, man. I started this year on the back of a messy breakup, so I know exactly how that feels, Andrew. So you're not alone on this one, buddy. Look, I've come a lot. There's one thing I've learned in 2020 is that basically enjoy your own company, and it's worked out all right. I mean, there's possibilities for 2021, but I'm not holding out much hope on the dating standpoint. Trust me. If you want to date, let me know. I am single, but I'm not holding out much hope where that's concerned. I mean, have you seen this hair? Like, I chose the wrong haircut to go with before going into another lockdown. So, yeah, you don't have to worry too much about that. But, look, you're not alone. Trust me. Chuck in the chat. Can't wait to see Seb's AMR helmet. That's going to be very interesting to see if he goes with something like the racing green that they normally have, or whether he'll do something different for that. I'm very curious about that. I'm glad you guys think the haircut suits me. That's very kind of you. I know I look a bit like one of those, like, I look like a black version of Beavis and Butthead. But like, this is gonna grow out in like a month's time, and then it's gonna, like, I don't know when London will be out of Tier 4 and when I'll be able to get another trim again. So, this is going to age badly, I reckon, unless we come out of Tier 4 early, and there is no guarantee, when that's going to happen, so who knows. I think it's alright for now, but, good point, Libby, good point. Mum can do that as well. Mum could probably, trim it down. The last time Mum did it, I ended up looking like Guile out of Street Fighter anyway, so it's a good point. Yeah, all I will say is I'm glad to got to see the true colours of her before letting myself continue on with it. I'm chill. No, good to hear you're alright, Drew. I don't blame him. Breakups are nasty. But let's have a check. That haircut, optimism can only go so far. Quite right, fellow Dre. Quite right. Shout out to Matt Carnero. Shout out to Matt indeed. I'll throw out a controversial question. Does the 2020 season affect Vettel's legacy in your view, or is it just a small blip? Depends how you want to look at it. We don't really evaluate drivers on an all-time discussion when it comes to bad seasons. We are very big in praising the good and looking at the counting stats and looking at the big boy numbers. We don't talk about bad seasons so much in the context of evaluating drivers. Like, we look at Hamilton, right? Hamilton's probably top 2 all time now. Probably number 1. Preemptively, given he's going to rack up yet more counting stats next season. Does anybody talk about him in the context of 2011, for example? Which was a genuinely bad season by his standards? We don't. We don't really say, oh, look at Schumacher's Mercedes era. We kind of gave him a pass for that one. Also, just getting my ring light put in as well, because it's a bit dark on this end. Just gonna set that up. Oh god, my ring light's very awkwardly placed in my bedroom, so that's better. Yeah, so you can see my face in all its grossness. That's better. All right. So yeah, I don't think we evaluate bad seasons, in the same way, but could be wrong. So just getting the chat. It's like, be saying I was going to use my bubble for dating, but had to use it to see my parents on Christmas. Meant a lot to my mum, but Libby, are you seeing someone? Was it the booking of the hotel sort of dating in inverted commas? Because trust me, I've been there too, and it does lose its appeal after a couple of chances. Trust me, I've been there. Harry saying, Che tier 4 paying, I'm in Kent. Yeah, Kent's one of the worst spots in the country right now, so look after yourself, Harry. I can see your issue, but for now it's okay. If you want a haircut, just travel up to Liverpool. Dear, I've been cutting my own hair for the whole year. That is brave, you said. That is brave to cut your own hair, man. I have not got that level of confidence. Sir 2011 still gives me PTSD. Oh dear. Mate, I'm in Essex. Hi Ben. I'm in Essex tier 4. I dread the thought of Jedward hair being a trend at my school. Jedward hair. Yeah, you're probably not wrong there, Ben. You're probably not wrong. It is Jedward. Certainly. Yeah. For context, yeah, I am absolutely. I'm in tier 4. I got no problem admitting I'm in West London. So. Yeah, tier 4. We were in tier 3 for a whole 3 goddamn days. I was at work serving like 30 people at the bookies in a 13-hour day, and then by the Friday, oh, we're closing up again. Great! You know. So somehow Northants has been managed to stay in tier 3. We're surrounded by tier 4 down the bottom, though. Yeah, makes sense. Seems like it's only going to be a matter of time before they add more counties to it. By the sounds of it, it's the whole southeast at this point. It's crazy. Also, my God, 20 of you guys watching. So you know, that's very kind of you. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. But, you know, hope you guys are doing alright. I'm gonna let the chat catch up for a second. Right, cool. Spurs scored after 60 seconds. Jesus. I could easily put the game on in the background if I really wanted to, because I've got my Skybox hooked into that. But I don't want to get taken down for copyright. Probably for the best I don't do that. But, yeah. Valers, hi Dre, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you too, my friend. Hope you had a good one. OVT, do you think Russell's performance hurts Hamilton more than Bottas? I mean in contract negotiation terms. No. Short answer is what I would say to that. No. They're paying Lewis Hamilton 40 plus million a year for good reason. Because it's not only the fact that he wins, it's the fact that, you know, image rights, marketing value. What he brings to the table is incredibly unique. Something that no one else on the grid can really handle. And yeah, Hamilton is an incredibly big, marketable guy. He's the only transcendent driver in terms of popularity that the sport's got. Look, he just won Sports Personality of the Year for the second time. He's made the top 3 6 times over. He is far more popular now than what the confines of F1 brings to the table. I get what you're trying to say is George Russell had that really great race in Sakir, so maybe they can get away with having Russell, if he's 90% of what Hamilton brings to the table, they can save money. I get what you mean, but he's Lewis Hamilton, so I wouldn't worry about that. Like, Lewis Hamilton is guaranteed at this point 10 or 11 wins a year, even if the Mercedes isn't as uber broken as it normally is. So, yeah, I wouldn't worry about that at all. You know, he is, at this point, a brand more than he is a racing driver. And, look, as Libby points out in the chat, like, Mercs have not done a deal with him yet. but I don't think anyone's rushing to get this done. Like, I don't. It is a bit peculiar because technically speaking, Hamilton is a free agent right now. But he's got nowhere else to go in F1 unless he suddenly wants to retire, which, given every interview I've heard of him, there is no sign that the man wants to hang it up anytime soon. It just says to me that they're just not in a hurry. They're just not in a rush. They're not in a rush or not in a hurry or anything like that. And I think Libby is right again in the chat when she says they're going to try and tie down a long-term deal, maybe 3 years or something like that, so it doesn't get hit by the salary cap when that comes into play in 2023, because Hamilton will probably take some sort of financial hit, knowing that the salary cap for the drivers is 30 million for both of them in 2023, and if they go beyond that, it comes out of the team's cap. So, you know, I don't think there's any sort of hurry. I think they'll get it done before pre-season testing. And I think Hamilton signs a 2-year deal, personally. I think he'll do 1 more year to get the 8th title and become the undisputed most successful driver ever. And I think he'll do 1 more year to see what the new cars are like and then go from there. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm not particularly fussed. I think I'm not concerned about it. I think it's a matter of when rather than if Hamilton signs that deal. Kelly saying, but Lewis won a poor sports personality. I mean, yeah, I guess, but that's just the nature of 2020. It was never going to be a super stacked year because a lot of sports were either cancelled, distracted, curtailed, and to be honest, there wasn't anyone that was particularly outstanding on the nomination list this year. Holly Doyle did good things for horse racing, but was not on merit anywhere near everybody else. Stuart Broad had a great summer, but he would have had to have been Ben Stokes level of spectacular to have a chance. And without the World Cup or the Ashes, he was never going to do that. Ronnie O'Sullivan probably should have finished in second, quite frankly, but people just don't like him. I think Ronnie's too polarising. I think he's pissed off a lot of people. I think he pissed off a lot of Hamilton fans when he made those comments he made about 2 or 3 months ago, even if there was an air of validity about them. I think Ronnie splits the room with too many people, which is a shame because Snooker absolutely deserved a long-term guy, and Ronnie was owed a nomination for years, a good decade or more. And he should have won a couple of these by now because his comeback in 2012 was incredible. But it was an Olympic year, so he didn't have a prayer anyway. So, you know. But, you know, it's we'll have to wait and see. You know, I personally voted for Ronnie. I'm not going to lie. And that's kind of my own arrogance because I thought Hamilton was going to win anyway. Especially when I found out about, you know, Marcus Rashford not making the shortlist. The only person that was going to stop Hamilton from winning that award was Marcus Rashford, and then when they found out he was going to get his own expert panel award and not be on the shortlist for the main award, you knew Hamilton. I know there was a late surge in the betting for Jordan Henderson because clearly Liverpool got behind their man, but you know, Henderson on merit was never going to win. Like winning the Premier League when he was mediocre as a captain, when Kevin De Bruyne was clearly the better player in the Premier League last season, I thought was a bit of a joke personally, but it's a British award, so they had to pick someone from that team that won the Premier League for the first time in 30 years. They bought into the narrative, and they were always going to go for Jordan Henderson. You know, so of all the guys on that list, Tyson Fury didn't have a chance. His fight with Wilder was back in February. Of all the guys that were on that list, I thought horse racing would back Holly Doyle because they can make money off her name, and I thought Ronnie O'Sullivan would finish top 3. Turns out Henderson stole a lot of votes at the end, and I agree, Kelly, that Jonathan Ray should have absolutely been on that shortlist as well. If you put Jonathan Ray on the list for 3 world titles, you can do it for 6. Quite frankly, you know, 99 career wins now in World Superbikes, 6 times a consecutive world champion. he has surpassed and smashed people like Carl Fogarty, who were way more popular, into oblivion. Like, Jonathan Ray should be on the shortlist almost every year he contends, especially given that this was the toughest year of the 6 he's had to win these world titles, given that Scott Redding came over. But it was always going to be Hamilton's award, and I'm glad he got it. They'd be saying, technically when Dan started with Renault, the contract wasn't done. I'm sure Merck are more professional, though. Wow. Didn't know that was a thing. They can just stick him in the car, just thinking they'll sign a contract down the road. Interesting. Didn't realise that was a thing. Yes, and I do wish Marcus Berry that header yesterday. That was frustrating. Definitely. Russell saying, imagine if he does retire, though. Do you think Russell gets the seat? Yes. They would absolutely buy Russell. I think I personally think Merckx shouldn't, and I say they shouldn't, because you can bring George Russell in 2022 by releasing Valtteri Bottas anyway. You're Mercedes. You have the most desirable, best seat in Formula 1 in a team that's won 7 consecutive championships. 7 consecutive double championships. You know, it's the best seat in motorsport. You could get anyone you wanted if you tried hard enough. Like, I still think they should put... I still think if the opportunity comes out to go get Max Verstappen after Hamilton retires. Verstappen's the number 2 guy on the board. He spoke the other day about not regretting going to Red Bull. You know, there was good reasons for that, but how long is Verstappen going to stick it out with a Red Bull team that's not going to give him a car good enough to win a title? The last chance really is the 2022 regulations. If they don't get that right, Red Bull could be a decade without a major championship. Personally, as a fan who wants to see chaos, I would like to see George take Valtteri's seat. However, I can also completely understand that what Valtteri brings to that team as a number 2 accidental rear gunner, and his role is very, very useful. So that's why Valtteri sticks around. Although, I don't think Bottas will get a benefit of the doubt 3rd time round. He got a benefit of the doubt in 2018, certainly, because he was on the unluckiest side of the reliability, and I think he was again this year. But we'll have to wait and see. I think Max is a bit too far out. Hi, Chris. Good to see you. Oh, from Bend, Oregon, my friend. Oregon, nice to see you. Just checking the chat. Of course, if I remember correctly, Hamilton was second in the European version behind Robert Lewandowski. Makes sense. Hulkenberg is the maddest sub in for Hamilton if he retires. That's funny. Congrats to Jensen. I did see on Twitter he's had another baby boy. Congrats to him. And the family. You know, Lenny. I heard the name. Good name. Gibran asking, who do you think is more likely to win sports personality in the long run, Lando or George? Lando. Lando drives for a team that is surging in popularity, becoming more of a global brand. The McLaren are definitely back on the up and up. They're a big name brand. Lando's already gone viral on numerous occasions. He'll have a ton of younger fans backing him because he is generating new fans from YouTube, from Twitch, from Team Quadrant. I think Lando is going to be the internet's new superstar for the next 10 to 15 years. Comfortably. Well, he's a very, I know he's young, but he's a very shrewd operator in how to sell yourself as a brand on the internet. Team Quadrant's got, nearly 200,000 subscribers on YouTube already? And they've got Arif and Niran on board who, you know, and Steve at Super GT, 3 brilliant YouTubers, 3 of the very best in this community. You know, Niran's not a motorsport guy anymore. He's obviously now a football YouTuber with FNG, and he's a good mate of mine, and I couldn't be prouder of him. He's a fantastic young man, and, you know, he's done brilliant work on YouTube for football, you know, so I'm delighted for him. Lando, I think, has got all the building blocks to be a future superstar. if he has a car that's worth a damn or something that's on Verstappen's level where they can challenge for wins, look out. I really do believe that. I like George, but I'm not still fully convinced he'll end up in a factory Mercedes. Because I have too much buyer's remorse on Esteban Ocon and Pascal Wehrlein on that front. Personally. I hope I'm wrong, but, you know, we'll have to wait and see. Also just checking Twitter. Oh, Libby's tweeted me. Oh, Claude's trying to steal my attention. Excuse the mess. That's so sweet. Libby, oh, mwah. I adore you. You're the best. Oh, it always makes me all emotional when I see people put me on their TVs. It's the cutest thing. Oh, I love it. It's the cutest thing. Thank you, man. Thank you so much. We've got 27 viewers. Wow, Jesus, on a Sunday night. Brilliant. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Say hi. I'll try to get through your questions, I promise. I know my chat's actually a bit fast moving and I do like to talk a lot, so do bear with me. Let's have a look here. Max leaving Red Bull would turn that team into a rolling dumpster fire. Yeah, you're probably right. Who asked me about Yuki Tsunoda? I did see a question about that earlier. I might have missed it. I'm just scrolling up and down. I think somebody asked me about Yuki. Yes, it was a guy with the same name as me, fellow Dre. What are your thoughts on Yuki Tsunoda coming into F1? I think he'll be just fine. I think Yuki Tsunoda's a stud. I really do. He was excellent in Formula 2 this season. He shot through the categories in the junior formula. Went from 4 to 3 to 2, now to 1 very, very quickly. He's a very good all-rounder, excellent pace, brave overtaker. You know, he ticks a lot of boxes, certainly. He's going to have a tough fight because he's got Pierre Gasly as a teammate straight away, and Gasly's coming off a career year. And a year where he's going to be very high in people's minds because he won a Grand Prix last year, was a Driver of the Year candidate. So it's going to be a very tough test for Yuki Tsunoda straight away because Gasly is still pretty young, had an excellent 2020, and has got plenty of experience under his belt now. Like 60 plus Grand Prix under his wagon now. So it's going to be a tough test. But if Yuki is anyway half decent, I think he will be. I think he's a very, very good driver. And of course, because he's so small and tiny, he's going to have an advantage because engineers love a smaller driver, and he's only 5'2". Bless him. He's a whole foot shorter than me, which is just a terrifying prospect. But, you know, that means you can put more ballast on the car where you want it, so it's genuinely an advantage to be smaller as a racing driver. So, look, and we need Japan back in the sport. Like, we haven't had a Japanese driver since Kamui, and he's excellent. Like, he's been excellent in the juniors. Yeah. You know, I think he's going to be great. I think he's a very talented kid. Parker saying, where do you think McLaren would be without Zach Brown, and how long do you think Haas stays in F1? Seems both are on the brink. I like Zach Brown a lot. Like, Brown, I was skeptical about him being he was just a big auto sport media guy first and foremost, but he's very good at brand deals. He's bold. He's brave. I like the fact he was willing to go back to IndyCar and try again because, you know, they were embarrassed in the past with Fernando Alonso's attempts. Like, I think he's doing a great job as owner of the team. He's got McLaren up to third in the championship, their best season in 8 years, and they're going to be on Mercedes power in 2021. So I think there's a lot to like about Zach Brown and a lot to like about the direction of where McLaren's going if they can get their finances in order. And I'm glad that they've got some more money coming in. I know they had to sell a third of the team to do it, but it's easy to forget McLaren laid off 1,200 staff. They needed a loan from the Bahrain royal family to even keep the team afloat at the start of the year. So let's not forget, McLaren under the cracks are not in the best of shape financially. But I hope they know what they're doing in that sense. But they're trending up, certainly, and that's only a good thing. Haas, what's to say about Haas that hasn't already been said? We all know their situation with Nikita Mazepin. Less said about that, the better. But it's pretty clear that Haas needed Mazepin in order to survive. And we're not talking about pay driver money. We're talking about, significant owner stake sort of money. Especially given Haas's business plan was kind of risky from the start. So, unfortunately, for all the hashtags of "we say no to Mazepin," rightly or wrongly, hashtags don't pay the bills. And unfortunately, saying goodbye to Mazepin and quote-unquote doing the right thing could potentially have cost Haas hundreds of jobs. I'm personally of the opinion that if a team needs a pay driver to survive, they probably shouldn't be in F1 in the first place. But that's the unfortunate nature of the beast. There's not much anybody can do about that. Yeah, we're talking 8 to 9 digit numbers with Haas. It's not just a few million from, the usual pay driver money. We're talking several multiples on that. And not that I condone anything that Mazepin did, of course. He's a terrible human being, and I don't want him to be in the sport. But unfortunately, if it comes at a team's expense, I might have to swallow some pride, unfortunately. Nature of the sport. Look, not to get too political, but long story short, don't expect rich white billionaires to come under any sort of comeuppance for what they do in life. Checking the chat. Issues a lot of success. Harsh on drivers because I haven't got a little title fight. Bottas hasn't been in a title conversation. Yeah, completely agree. Will Gazzy leave AlphaTauri for Alpine in next year's silly season and check Discord? I'll check Discord later, Finley. I'm a bit busy, obviously, but actually, I'll check it now. I've got nothing else going on. Yeah. I don't think he will, because unless Esteban Ocon is a complete bust next year, and I don't think he is. I think he was actually pretty decent compared to Daniel Ricciardo, who, again, driver of the year level candidate. Ricciardo's in a league above Esteban Ocon, so I'm expecting Ocon to be a bit worse off, but don't see any reason for him to change that. Where did you get that sexy spirit jersey? Sincerely, a guy who wants the 100 and Trent Rockets to smash it. Yes, this is a jersey for cricket. It's for the 100. I'll tell you exactly where I found it from, because I've got my order details from Gmail, because I forgot where I got it from, but I know they are supplying the 100s jerseys. Give me a minute, I'll tell you. Yeah, I got it from All Rounder Cricket. 45 quid, I think it was. If you want names and numbers on the back, like mine is, because I've got Owen Morgan on the back of mine, I think it's another 12 quid. But compared to most sports jerseys, not a bad price, if I do say so myself. So yeah, go to All Rounder Cricket if you want to pick that up. Yeah. And yeah, I know, Libby, that Ocon and Gasly don't get along, so that can't work. And Fernando Alonso signed a 2-year deal, which I assume they'll honour. So I don't think him going to Alpine will work. Chris saying, will McLaren be able to shoehorn the Mercs power unit successfully? I think they've spoken about how they're going to be better off with that than they were last time, so I think they'll be alright. The other Owen. Yes, the other Irish Owen, the quite famous one who's very good at swinging a bat. Alpine. you're forgetting that they have Alonso with Ocon. Look, like I said, I don't think Alonso's going anywhere. Alonso's got a 2-year deal at Renault, and I don't see any reason why he wouldn't do the 2 years. What are your expectations for Ferrari next year? Pain, said Arson. Pain is what I would say in response to that. Look, Ferrari's still my favourite team, even without Sebastian on it, and I do wish them the best. And I'm not the biggest fan of Charles Leclerc personally, but I do wish the team the best. I think I've always said the sport is better when Ferrari are good compared to when Ferrari are bad. It's good for everybody if Ferrari is up to speed and have a competitive team. But let's just say I'm not exactly jumping for joy after the way they treated Sebastian in his final season. Let's put it to you that way. I saw that there on Twitter about you getting that West McLaren shirt from 05. It's a beautiful F1 shirt. It really is. And congratulations on picking that up for Christmas. That's an awesome find. Checking the chat. Plus, if we're looking at it from a petty perspective, we could be an FU to Red Bull for forcing them to bring in more rookies at AlphaTauri. Yeah, could be Evan, certainly. They still have Johan Daruvala and Yuri Vips in Formula 2 next year, so if they have big seasons in their respective categories, there's every chance they could still keep the rookie train rolling again. I know that shit dried up quite a lot, but you know, we gotta wait and see, I suppose, on that one. Yeah, exactly. Fernando's there for 2 years. There's no way he goes any earlier. Oh, I forgot, yeah, no Vietnam. Best track to fill in for Vietnam, go back to Portimao. I think Portimao was the best of the returning / new tracks for this year that we raced around. You can't really have Bahrain in that slot. Have the European season a bit early and go to Portimao again. I'd like to see that Grand Prix again. Maybe a little bit less of a DRS zone on the main circuit, but besides that, I think Portimao was decent and could be a fun Grand Prix. Yeah, and trust me, Andrew, I'm not any more excited for Alonso than anybody else. I'm not a big Alonso fan, never really have been. But Istanbul, I'll be fine with as well, definitely. Valera saying, look at the history of Red Bull drivers. I think Perez is only the third non-affiliated since 07. Yeah, correct. I know Owen already answered that. Coulthard, Webber, Perez. It's the first time they've broke their driver academy protocol in about 10 years. Bit more than that, actually. I think it's about 12 years, actually. Do you think Albon will be a quickly forgotten driver for F1 teams, especially as he can't bounce back after a difficult 2020? Yes. Short answer. Unless something catastrophic happens at Red Bull or AlphaTauri, Albon's done. Unless he finds a shit ton of money, which unfortunately Albon has always struggled with, unfortunately, because his career was on the brink when he was in Formula 2. When he was at Dams. He very nearly had to pull out of that series and end up in Formula E. There's an alternate timeline out there where Alex Albon is in Formula E instead. And no one has ever written or spoke about it. Hazel. That's not a jab. I love Hazel. But, yeah. That's certainly a thing. I think he'll be forgotten about. I think they're very excited about Yuki. And they still have Pierre Gasly. If they ever want to admit they got that situation wrong, they can always give Gasly another go. If it really came down to it. So, I think Albon was put in an impossible situation. He was, after 10 career Grand Prix, was told, go sit in a top-tier seat and basically be better than Verstappen. That was nearly impossible, and then Sergio Perez had a season so good, he was basically, you couldn't not sign him. There wasn't a valid reason on the books to keep Albon over Sergio Perez. There just wasn't. So Albon was put in an unwinnable situation. You know, so it's unfortunate, but it's one of those things. That's the sport for you. We talk about how ruthless it is all the time, and unfortunately sometimes that's unavoidable. One second. Checking my phone. Checking the chat. Portimao, best tracks in the world. I agree. Probably the world's best bike track. I fucking love Portimao. Yeah, I don't think we're getting Melbourne either, Libby. Certainly. Cuddy saying that Albon should have stayed in FE. I mean, probably, but let's be honest. And I'm hoping Hazel isn't here, because if I say something bad about Formula E, she strikes me down with a lightning bolt. Formula E is never going to be someone's top aspiration, even if it's now a world championship. I love Formula E as a series. I love the technology. I love the racing. The personalities in it are great. I am the biggest fan of Formula E. If you're going up the conventional motorsport ladder, Formula E is a side piece. Albon had a shot in an F1 car. It's very, very hard to knock those sorts of opportunities back, especially when they came at the 11th hour. You know? So I completely understand why Albon did it. Albon might have been better off going to Formula E in the long run, but the context of how Albon got into F1 makes sense that he ended up there. Seeing a chat as well for Melbourne. We'll see how they deal with Australian Open. If it's cancelled, there's no chance for F1. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah, F1 would be wise to pick cities outside of cities for the gaps, definitely. Which pair will cooperate better, says Jason? Max and Checo, Seb and Lance, Orlando and Danny Rick. I think they'll all be fine. I don't see any reason why there'd be any obvious clashes in personality between any of them. Seb's a very humble, modest guy. Lando and Danny Rick are already friends, and Max will just get on to business, and as will Checo. So I think, you know, the best one will be Lando and Danny Rick, because they get along very well, and Lando is just a disgustingly nice man. So I don't see any reason why that would be a big issue, personally. Yeah, user, I completely agree. Formula E just isn't on that same wavelength. It's funny you say about video count, though. One of my most watched videos this year was the Daniel App situation, when he got booted out of the Audi team for calling in a ringer. So there is some popularity if you hit the right topic, but look, general rule of thumb, anything I talk about on this channel that isn't Formula 1 doesn't do anywhere near as well. Like, MotoGP gets about half the views that Formula 1 does on average. I love talking about MotoGP. It's annoying because it makes me not want to make videos about it, but nature of the beast. What are you going to do with a prediction for 2021? Might do, Chris. Might do. Certainly. We'll have to wait and see. Dom asking, does Stroll get too much stick? Considering the guy was on form with Sergio up to Mugello and then had a poor run of luck and COVID and Perez turning into the Mexican Schumacher, I think he was solid. Yeah, the problem is that Stroll in a vacuum was pretty good this season, only for Perez to be a driver of the year candidate. You know, it sucks in that sense where if you just... It's like Jonas Volger in MotoGP about 3 years ago when he had a really good rookie season on paper, only Johan Zarco was bloody brilliant. If anyone remembers that MotoGP season, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, where at face value it was good, but it's just his teammate was fantastic. Stroll... I don't know. Stroll has fundamental problems in his game. He is a poor qualifier. it gives him more work to do in races. You know? He makes silly mistakes on occasion as well. His racecraft isn't quite where it should be for a guy who I think has done 4 seasons in F1 now. I'm starting to think this is just who Lance is. Like, he's still going to get exposed in certain head-to-head matchups. And he's still a step behind that midfield level. You know, the highest midfield level of dudes we're talking about now is probably Perez, Carlos Sainz, Lando Norris, that sort of ballpark. I would take all 3 of those dudes above Stroll. He's like smack dab in the middle of the road when it comes to how I evaluate drivers. I think if I had a tier list right now, I think Stroll would probably be your baseline. I think he's fine. And it's hard to talk about Stroll when it comes to evaluating him because he has a ridiculous amount of resources behind him, so we never talk about his seat being up for grabs because his dad's not going to sack him. His dad's thrown millions of pounds of resources at him to be a success in Formula 1. It's like a soccer mum, only in Formula 1's context. I'm not convinced on Stroll as a driver. I never really have been, personally. Libby talks about attitude. If it's a reference to Imola, I can understand the frustration. I'd rather guys be openly frustrated than, you know, try and play up to the media. And this is coming from me, a media guy. Like, you know, so... Oasis, of course. Sorry, need a drink. But, you know, like, it's hard to talk about Stroll because there's no consequence to him being bad. And he's not been bad, he's just been meh most of the time. Like, not to get too speculative on YouTube, but people mentioning Stroll's attitude, it seems he genuinely has some form of social anxiety, which, you know, makes me a little bit sketchy. I don't like to get judgy about people's attitudes because seeing people on TV is often not a fair reflection of how they really are. But I don't know. Stroll's just sort of there to me more than anything else. Drink, that's my favourite drink. I love Citrus Oasis. It's one of my. I bought a 12-pack of this just before Christmas, and it's in my mini fridge. Again, you can't see it back here, but it's right there. I had 12 of these in here, and I think I've gone through about 8 or 9 of them. But my brother chips in for like half the drink spill to fill my fridge up. But big fan of it. Love me Oasis. Yeah. Just checking the chat. Yeah, look, I totally get why he was promoted early. He was so... people say that Stroll is useless, but, like, man dominated European Formula 3. Like, he's a talented driver. There's no doubt about that. It's just... he's not taking that next step for me. They sell 1.5 litre bottles in Tesco's for £1. When the normal half milliliter ones go for £1. I need to go to Tesco's more often, clearly. Need to go tier 4 food shopping. Wear a mask if you're going out shopping, kids. We got a cricket question. I'll talk cricket for a little bit. Citizen says, what are your thoughts on the ICC Team of the Decade, which was announced today? Let me remind myself of what it looked like, because I can't remember it off the top of my head. Because overall, I think it was pretty good. I wouldn't change very much about it. Let's put it to you that way. If you're talking about the test team of the decade, I mean, there's Alistair Cook, David Warner, Williamson, Coley as captain, Smith, Sangakkara, Stokes, Ashwin, Dale Steyn, Stuart Broad, Jimmy Anderson. I mean, overall, like, I wouldn't change very much. I mean, Sangakkara was the obvious outlier there because he stopped. He's down as a wicketkeeper, and he's not kept wicket for Sri Lanka since 2008. So, why is he in there? He only played for, like, he retired from international cricket, I think in 2015, and he's in a team of the decade. And the marking period, I think, was from 2011, so he played for 4 of your eligible years and he made the team of the decade. What sense does that make? Cook is a lock. Warner is a lock. Williamson, Coley, and Smith is a lock. The thing is, I'm not sure who keeps wicket if you don't take Sangakkara. Probably AB de Villiers, I would say. If you're going to have a wicket-keeper or someone that's going to bat 6 or 7. It says a lot about this team when Ben Stokes is batting at 7. I've got no problem with Stokes as an all-rounder. He is probably the best all-rounder in cricket. I mean, the 2019 would probably take him over the top of Jason Holder, who's been ranked number 1 or around that sort of area for years. I think Holder would be a fair assessment to have in that 7 spot. Ravi Ashwin averages 27 and has taken 300 plus wickets this decade. Absolutely, you've got to take him as your spinner. It's a shame because Nathan Lyon's also very good. He probably would have been a contender for that. And the bowlers I'm fine with. Dale Steyn is a legend. Man took, 400 plus wickets at 22 as an average. That's absolutely ridiculous. Broad and Anderson, self-explanatory, really. You know, I'd be tempted to throw Pat Cummins in there because he's a brilliant test bowler as well, but you got to take Broad and Anderson. So I've not got too many issues with that team, to be honest with you. Sangakkara is the big one. Everything else I think is fine. So, you know, those are my general thoughts on that one. I didn't talk about it on Twitter very much because I thought it was pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, maybe BJ Watling for wicketkeeper as well. Definitely. Watling would have been a fine pick as well for wicketkeeper. Hi, Warwick. I had a good Christmas, man. Hope you did too. It was very nice. Look, it's the first proper Christmas I've had off in like 10 years of me working retail. So I'm delighted I just got some time off with the family, some proper time with the family, because I've never had that before. So for that reason alone, I'm very happy. Yes, I can buy some and send them. Feel free, Andrew. By all means, I will happily take donations of free Oasis to my fridge. Yeah. I'll give you that in the chat from Jason and Dom. Stroll does have one genuine X factor. Genuinely one of the best wet weather drivers in the world. He's excellent in the wet. I will give you that. Completely agreed on that count. Evan, alright, so 36 of you watching? Wow. 36? That's insane. Thank you guys. Wow. That is tremendous. Very happy about that. It's very, very, very cool. Let's just check in the chat again, because it's been the weirdest Christmas ever, but happy or Merry Christmas to all, or most of you in the UK. I am, certainly. I presume you heard the news about Amazon might be streaming F1 races next season. Hope it breaks the massive paywall Sky F1 has. Don't count on it, Dre, is what I would say in response to that. I'm pretty sure Sky have an exclusivity agreement for at least another 2 years. Because I remember the last time they had a big re-signing of that, I think it was 2017, I want to say. And I think it was like a 5-year exclusive agreement, basically. They have to give... I think it's still 2022 or 2023. Not 100% sure on that one, but I know it's certainly for about 2 or 3 more years. What I will say to that is Sky are not going to cough that one up, because Sky have poured a lot of money into getting Formula 1 behind its own paywall. They don't create your own channel for a sport unless they're seriously going to sincerely they wanted to get all of that behind the paywall, and they threw all that money at a channel, at staff, at snagging some of the big name players like Martin Brundle from other networks. You don't throw that sort of change at something unless you're making a serious investment, and the way live sport is going really is kind of the last bastion of average TV. They're not gonna, and that's the thing, there's repeats, and I agree with you, there is so many repeats, because they haven't got the backlog to justify running a 24-hour sports channel on just the live sport, especially when the channel is going to be dead for 200 days a year, so... So they're not going to give up that coverage anytime soon, at least in my opinion. They're going to want to monopolize everything they've got. I get the Amazon rumor, because it's pretty clear that Amazon absolutely are dipping their toes in the water for live sports coverage. They've got a ton of Premier League games now. They had the US Open tennis for a couple of years now. They're clearly thinking about it. I think that a bigger commitment is going to take a lot more money. But if anyone's going to go out and challenge the big TV networks for live sports, it's going to be Amazon. Definitely. And if they get F1, they will charge for it. The Premier League being free is just a couple of games. You're paying the £8 a month for Amazon Prime anyway, so it doesn't matter. But in my humble opinion, then I think if Amazon does make a move, it won't be for another 2 or 3 years yet. Yeah, and as Libby points out, one of the last things Bernie did when he was in charge of the sport was sort out the last Sky extension before fucking off. And he gave Sky exclusive rights on everything. Like, internet coverage. It's why F1 TV in the UK isn't available in the UK to have races streamed like in other countries, because he gave Sky exclusivity on everything besides the YouTube channel. Thanks, Bernie. Way to go. Thanks, Jabran, for watching. Take care, mate. Dom saying, Mazepin aside, most likable grid for a while next season? Yeah, probably. The way the sport is now is different from 10-15 years ago, in that the drivers seem to genuinely care about each other. People like we have more of an emotional connection with drivers than we did before. And I think there's genuinely a lot more empathy behind the guys on the grid. Like, they're praising each other on Instagram, they're talking to each other more, they're hanging out with each other more, they're streaming more. It's a different sport, and the people that are in it are different characters than the ones we had when I was growing up as a kid. So, yeah, it probably is a really likable grid for that reason, because the drivers are much more out there compared to what it was. But, that's how I feel about it anyway. Yes, I do agree with you guys. Channel 4's coverage is definitely better. I like it a lot more. I only watch Sky to stare at Natalie Pinkham. If you know, you know. I'm half joking. She's one of my original crushes. I can't help it. Alex Miller saying, I used to watch MotoGP religiously, but for some reason never really watched it from 2016 until this season just gone. Could you explain why Honda are rubbish or reliant on Mark now to a returning fan? I would say, Alex, that the biggest reason is that Honda went all in on Marc Marquez, which is understandable because he's Marc Marquez. He's such a freak of a talent. Marquez in the last 4 or 5 years has only really proven that no one else on the grid has the talent to ride around the Honda's obvious problems as a bike. The biggest problems Honda have had in the last few years was front tyre grip, cornering speed. They had to square off a lot of corners and it struggled with that, and for a little while it struggled with lack of power as well. They've certainly closed the gap on a power standpoint. In fact, most of the field has bunched up on that, but it is an incredibly what's the right word, erratic bike, in that it's very hard to control. It's difficult to handle. It snaps an awful lot. It's very brutish on acceleration. So when you factor in all that skittishness and the fact it's on a knife edge at its peak, Marquez was seemingly able to control that better than most people. And if you haven't got his level of talent, which, by the way, is just about everyone that's ever got on a bike ever, you're going to struggle that much more. It's built for Mark. And Mark can do things on a motorcycle that other guys just can't do. It's how Pedrosa ended up struggling. It's how, Crutchlow has struggled and complained about it for years and years and years. It's how Lorenzo struggled on it last year. It goes on. Yeah. It's rumored that Amazon are favourites for NFL's Thursday night games come next year here in the States, and NBC might be shutting down their sports network and moving it to a paid online service. That would make sense, definitely. Hi Cam, good to see you. Yeah, Mark's sheer talent and ability enabled Honda to be lazy on the chassis side. Makes sense. Probably an unpopular opinion, but I missed the controversy that F1 had in the late 2000s. Alonso was involved in most of it. Hopefully he brings controversy next year. I get it. Contrary to popular belief, controversy creates cash. Eric Bischoff wrote a great book about that, and it's very true. You had cataclysmic stories in the late 2000s. Obviously, Crashgate, Max Mosley, Spygate. There were a lot of that around the end of the 2000s. I get it. I get why people were being enthralled by that. It's part of the reason people like the sport so much. Definitely. Yeah, just seeing Libby, there's controversy, and then obviously Mazepin, of course. My opinion on Diego Maradona, says Warwick. Genius. Sporting genius. It says a lot for me that in terms of football, that Lionel Messi is really the only one, in my opinion, that's even come close. Obviously, Messi had better production in terms of sheer counting stats and goals and assists provided. But Maradona was, they only built one of those. A 5'5" guy that can go around and dribble the ball like that and destroy people from an attacking standpoint. People talk about the hand of God. The first goal he scored in that game was one of the greatest goals, if not the greatest goal in World Cup history. And this was a different... It was a different game of football back then. They would kick the shit out of you in the 60s and 70s when Maradona, or 70s and 80s when Maradona was playing. You could literally kick someone's leg out from underneath them and only get a yellow card. Like, now it's a straight red. Like, he was a marked man. They knew how good he was, so they beat the piss out of him on a football field, and he still found a way to destroy everybody. Man was a genius, a cultural, sporting icon. God's only made one of them. And like I said, Messi's about the only guy that's even come close. Like, genius. An absolute genius. And one of the most important athletes in the history of sport, as far as I'm concerned. Simple as that. Second the chat. Tom, if Jason Kenny wins the one medal he needs at the Olympics to become the most successful GB Olympian of all time, is he nailed on Sports Personality of the Year? No. Because it's an Olympic year. Olympic years are always dodgy. You never quite know what will come up. Someone could have a massive games. Look, I'll give you an example. There is no way on earth that Jason Kenny would be nailed on if Dina Asher-Smith has a big Olympics. And she's probably the best hope we have of a major track medal would be Dina Asher-Smith in the 100 and or 200 metres. And Dina came third last year, let's not forget. And it was a pretty bad and pretty controversial World Championships where she came third overall in that contest. Because people shit on that World Championship in Doha. All over. From the marathon being, basically being too hot, to the bad conditions, to the politics of Sebco, basically saying anything and everything to justify holding a world championship in an empty stadium. They had to invite the kids in to get it done, to have any sort of attendance. To have any sort of a capacity crowd there, they had to bring the school kids in, Paula Radcliffe and Steve Cram having to justify their bullshit because they're still paid by Nike, despite being hailed as being impartial on the BBC. Like, it was a awful World Championships, and the one big takeaway from it was Dina Asher-Smith. So I've got a feeling she might end up in the top 3 next year, if she's able to replicate the gold medal she won out there. Although, if you didn't hear it from me, it was kind of a weaker World Championship because no one doubled up besides her. But you didn't hear that from me. Checking the chat. I mean, Kenny and Trot could have a carbon copy of their Rio games and still not be nailed on the 2 most underrated Olympians of all time in this country. Quite possibly, Dom. I'm not going to argue with you on that one. Like, Jason Kenny has never been the popular one in that British cycling team. It was always either Victoria Pendleton or Chris Hoy. Those were the big names. Or Bradley Wiggins when he came back as well. And Wiggins, of course, won a Sports Personality of the Year. So, and Geraint Thomas did too. Like, for some reason, we just don't talk about the Kennys in the same way. Bit too early for NBA predictions yet, Andrew, but I appreciate that. I forgot we hopefully get to do the Olympics this year. I hope so too, Libby. I'm going to be honest, I'm not holding out a lot of hope. But, fingers crossed, a lot of this COVID situation is sorted out in those other countries beforehand. I hope. But yeah. Just gonna let the stream catch up a little bit. Oh, right. Yeah, just seeing more F1 Twitter drama go down. Certain people are like, oh my god, stop creating drama. And I'm like, yeah, stop tweeting that you want to create drama. I checked the timeline and I'm just like, oh, for fuck's sake. Livy saying, I mean next year. In my brain, it's been 2021 since I started working on the RS20 in October. Fair enough. Are we still thinking the Euros will go ahead? Yes. Definitely, Andrew. Definitely. If we're playing international football now, and we're playing Champions League games right now, even though travelling, in my opinion, is a really, really bad idea between countries for football matches right now, then we're going to play the Euros. Definitely. It will probably be without fans, but the Euros, I think, will definitely still go ahead. Look, I'm of the opinion we should not be playing in the Champions League right now. We shouldn't be playing internationals right now at all. But unfortunately, football's made that decision. They can't afford to leave that much money off the table, clearly. So, when did you first think that Seb and Ferrari wouldn't go to plan? Says Ben. Well, look, it's not that it didn't go to plan. It's that, what's the right way of me wording this? We had like as a Seb and Ferrari fan, like, we had 3 pretty good seasons before it. Like, we had 3 or 4 pretty good years before it went to shit. And the moment I personally knew it was going to go south was probably when Charles Leclerc got the 5-year deal. That was a statement. I knew in the back of my head when they gave Charles Leclerc a 5-year extension at the end of last season, I thought, that's it. Seb's done at the end of 2020. I didn't want to put it out there publicly because I think it would have caused too much of a stir. But when they gave Leclerc the 5-year deal, that was a statement of intent. That was, we're locking down our franchise piece for the next half decade. Ferrari never gives 5-year contracts. Formula One, in general, don't give 5-year contracts. So for Leclerc to get a 5-year deal, I knew that was Ferrari making it quite clear that Leclerc was their piece going forward. And that's understandable, because Charles Leclerc is a great talent. He's, I think, probably the 3rd best driver in the world, pound for pound, right now. I think he's an excellent driver. Like, he is the sort of guy you want to tie down if you can afford to, because he's excellent. But it's obvious, more than anything else, that the 2019 car was not legal. Or there was some loophole in it that had it get away from dodging the rules. So, you know, we will never know for sure what exactly happened under the hood in 2019, but that team was a mess, and that's when I really kind of knew that it was going south. But it is what it is. That car got significantly worse as time went on. But hey, we'll see. Do you think Rooney and Ronaldo are approaching the twilight of their careers now? Rooney's not been the same since he did his ankle in when he was 30. Rooney's not been the same guy since 2010, in my opinion. When he had that big ankle injury a year after his best season at United, he was never going to be in that conversation with Iniesta, Xavi, or the elite of the elite players in world football. He lost a lot of his athleticism after that ankle injury, and he was never quite the same again after that. So, Ronaldo, it is honestly, I am, like, Ronaldo is not what he was 3 or 4 years ago, but the fact that Ronaldo is still like a top 5 player in world football at 35 years of age is incredible. Like, I can't remember the last time we had a 35-year-old play on that sort of level. He is a physical freak. He is another guy that football said, we've built one of them and one only. They heard that Ferrari are redesigning their suspension next year to give it better behaviour at the rear. The year that Seb leaves to do something that would help him. Having a more planted rear in general is just good for the sport for the most part, Drew. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's ironic. Yeah, as Libby points out, only so many things you can do to make an engine more powerful. Legally, anyway. Hi, Charlie. Yeah, Slap Shoes is great on YouTube. Definitely get that one. Gonna go for another about half an hour, folks. I've got to go till 9 o'clock because I've still got to sort some dinner out for myself. I'm starving. So I'm going to go for another 40 minutes or so, till about 9 PM British time, so, you know. Still got 33 of you guys in, that's crazy. I'm saying that engine was cracked and I knew it was too good to be true. Yeah, you're probably right, Drew. Look, there is no coincidence that Charles Leclerc won the pole trophy that year. I think he had 8 pole positions that season, including 4 in a row. You know, so... Apparently that Ferrari was topping out at over 1,000 horsepower. And, like, I remember the first race of the season in Austria. They had a side-by-side onboard camera shot of the 2019 Ferrari and the 2020 Ferrari in terms of power. And they were significantly slower in a straight line. They were 10 miles an hour, nearly, slower in the main straights in Austria. It's no coincidence that they had that handshake agreement with the FIA. It all went quiet. Everybody else complained, and then Ferrari ended up being from the second best team in the field to the 6th best team. There's no coincidence. Something funny was about that engine, and Cameron makes a good point as well. But Resta getting moved around didn't help either. Certainly. Just double checking Twitter again. Gonna give myself another plug. Just to get a few more people in there if they're around. Lovely. Right. Trey, where's the PS5? Says Mahiri. It's funny you mentioned that. I have no interest in getting a PS5. None. This is going to be the last major time I use this computer because I've spent over $1,000 on a brand new computer, brand new monitor. That's where I've invested a lot of money. I saved a lot of money over the pandemic, and I thought I'd put it to good use to try and improve. Try and improve my setup here. Try and make Motorsport 101 a little bit better. So I decided to invest in that. And it's the same for Ryan, because Ryan did the exact same thing that I did. He's upgrading his PC over the last, year or so. Even if it meant him paying over the odds for it, because I know he paid about 500 quid for his graphics card a couple of weeks ago, even though it was a easy £200+ overpay. My brother has no patience. Because he got an RTX 3060, and yeah, he bought it on StockX, which is not a good sign when you're buying your gear off StockX, because it means you're paying a markup, most likely. But no. Unless they end up becoming dirt cheap, and I mean like under 300 quid, and that's not going to be for years yet, I'm not going to be buying a PS5 or an Xbox One series. There is no reason for me to buy them. I've got a PS4 right there. Literally, it's to play Blu-rays and to stream BT Sport whenever I need to stream stuff. That's it. I barely play it for games anymore. I just wanted to have a really powerful PC. Nice one there, Jason. I appreciate that. I'm seeing the debate break out about that engine from 2019. Yeah. Like I said, if you want to technically call it a loophole and not say it's illegal, fine. But if you're having private handshake agreements over this sort of stuff, then clearly something wasn't going on. Clearly there was some sort of... I know Ferrari wanted to protect its intellectual property, but, it's shady as all hell. Honestly, Kelly, I don't even play my Switch all that much either. I've got like 5 games for it. and not a lot of the marquee ones yet. Like, I've got Pokemon Sword still. I enjoyed both DLCs. I've got Grid Auto Sport on it. I've got Smash, which I've not even touched, because I just have no interest in Smash, and I've got Mario Kart 7. I've not played Odyssey. I've not played Breath of the Wild. I'm like way behind on Switch stuff. But that's it, Mars. We don't know what Ferrari did. And Cam makes a valid point. Everybody on the grid lost power with the new regulations. But Ferrari just lost way more. Like, some say it was over 50. And Mercs didn't lose any power, really. And that's probably a big reason why they ended up extending their advantage as a car. Racing Point outright broke a rule. We don't know what Ferrari did. And we might not ever will. How do I think Mick will perform at Haas next year? Gutting that he's not in an Alfa Romeo, which would have been more convenient. I think he's going to I think he'll be fine. He might struggle a bit because Mick has proven to be a 2-year sort of plan sort of guy. Like, takes the first year to really learn himself, and then second year he really shows his talents. But he's going to be driving in arguably, if not the worst car in the field. So don't expect anything major. But hey, we shall see. Here he asking, is Schwartzman a future world champion? Maybe. He's my new favourite. So you decided to stan Robert Schwartzman. I like him. He's a good kid. Bit rough around the edges as a talent, but certainly one to keep an eye on for the next season. Probably Formula 2 title favourite in 2021. So, you know, it's going to be a struggle for Mick in terms of sheer results, but hopefully he'll get the Russell shake where they give him the benefit of the doubt for a bad car. Will we see that same level of bias that we got for Mick than we got for George Russell this year? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I think he will, because obviously Mick Schumacher is very popular. People want him to do well for obvious reasons, you know, so... It's crazy. But we'll have to wait and see. What's up, man? My CPU's firing at 60% right now streaming this and not a single dropped frame. Internet connection's been very good today, actually. I'm impressed. Just gonna wait a couple of minutes for the stream to catch up. Again, if you want to get some questions in, feel free. You've got another half hour, just under half an hour or so. Expectations for IndyCar next year: more chaos. It's IndyCar. Don't try and predict it. That's what I always said. It's a lot. Like, this was like 2020 was a down year by IndyCar standards because Dixon pretty much ran the field over with a meat cleaver, but it was still incredible racing. Is that true, Jason? Almost 40 viewers? 37. 39. Wow. This is one of the most watched Hangouts I've ever done. This is crazy. I've got to do this more often. It's awesome. Yeah, the FIA International Assistance joke kind of died in 2005, really, but, you know, Ferrari still has a drunk level of political power and influence in the sport. Even if you don't want to play the FIA card, they still get historical money. They still have a technical veto. You know, it's just Ferrari hasn't had to really use it all that much. Who's the one to watch in F1 in 2021? Probably Yuki Tsunoda. I think. I think of all the situations out there on the grid, I think he's got the most potential to really impress people. AlphaTauri is the back end of the midfield. It wouldn't take a lot for Yuki to look good in that car. And I think he'll be a big breakout winner, potentially. Not a race winner, but a guy that will look good, you know? Madison's a great pull for him, sir. Definitely a great pull for him, sir. Not denying that at all. I suspect Mazepin will beat Schumacher because we're not allowed nice things. Look, I would hate to see it myself, Histor's Eye, but Mick normally takes a year to find his feet. I wouldn't be massively shocked if Mazepin did beat him in 2021. He's not a terrible driver by any stretch. Yeah, Cam saying I think a lot of it will depend on how Honda's last year in F1 goes. Yeah, very true. No, Miles, it's more a case like Mercedes are a more successful brand now. Ferrari have been the backbone of the sport since its modern form as we know it from 1950 onwards. It goes back way further than the 7 titles that Mercedes have won recently. This sport didn't start in 2014. Yeah. I agree, user. AlphaTauri was probably a bit better on paper. Charles Leclerc was phenomenal last season. That was a big part of that. Definitely. Certainly in qualifying. He still made a couple of silly mistakes in it. But, you know. Overall, Leclerc was fantastic. Had a couple of superhuman drives in that car. Definitely. But that car was a fucking mess. Make no mistake. It was probably 6th or 7th best on paper. Ben asking top 5 races of turbo hybrid era. Bahrain 2014, Hungary 2015. Best hybrid era races. Well, you got to throw in. You got to throw in Sakir from this year. I would say that was a solid 8, 9 out of 10 level race. Definitely. I'm trying to think if there's anything else in between that I would really put on that sort of level. I'm sure you guys in the chat will come up with your own suggestions and remind me. But I'm not good with years and races in general, so I struggle with that generally. I'm not talking about the 7 titles. I'm talking about their dominance before the war. Oh yeah, let's give Mercedes a technical veto when the sport wasn't even Formula 1 as we know it. Gotcha. Yes, Germany 2019, definitely would be in there. Canada 14? Yeah, Canada 14 was up there. That's a good shout. Brazil 19 was 90% boring with a crazy finish. 2019 is overrated. 2016 was pretty good. Ish. Although Verstappen's comeback was massively overrated. Like, the entire concept of a team getting a technical veto is ridiculous. Hungary 14 is up there as well. No one talks about Hungary 14, but that's a very good shout, actually. Hamilton having to come back through the field. Rosberg getting caught out by team orders. Ricardo winning the Grand Prix. Chaos in the rain. Multiple safety cars. Yeah, they were pretty good. Yeah, Baku 2017 is up there as well. Any race Lance was on the podium. Timeout. Automatic. Yes, Miles, we probably do give Ferrari a bit too much props, and generally speaking, that you know, they're inconsistent as a team. But unfortunately, that's just like that has got nothing to do with whether they should have a technical veto in the mandate or not. That's up to what they can negotiate with the guys that run the sport. USA 2015 is actually quite underrated. I do remember that race. That's a fair shout. Yeah, just get that in the chat catch up. Austria 2019. Yeah, Austria 2019 is a good race. That's a very good race. Seb's best drive in Red Vic. That was probably Bahrain 19, I think. Not, it was 19, sorry, Bahrain 18. Surviving on those tyres, I think, was an incredible drive. Yeah, Karen puts it best. Hungary 2014 was Mercedes getting fucked on a cataclysmic scale on a track you can't pass at and still finishing third and fourth. Pretty much. Like, Hamilton spun out and lost it on the opening lap and still finished on the podium. Shit, that just doesn't matter. But yeah, we guys got about 15 minutes left. If that helps. So yeah, make it last call for questions, folks. Connor asking who's finishing bottom 5. The 2 Hasses, probably the 2 Williams, and probably one of the Alfa Romeos, because the bottom 3 teams in Formula 1 are consistently at the bottom. Like the points gap between 7th placed Alfa Tauri and 8th placed Alfa Romeo were massive. The bottom 3 teams right now in Formula 1 are the bottom 3 teams by a long way. We had 41 viewers for a minute. Wow. 41 is insane. Jesus Christ. I think that's the most we've had on a live stream since me and King talked about Black Lives Matter on here. And that was 41 viewers. 41 is insane. Jesus Christ. I think that is about that's the most we've had on a live stream since me and King talked about Black Lives Matter on here. And that was 41 viewers. 41 is insane. Jesus Christ. I think that is about that's the most we've had on a live stream since me and King talked about Black Lives Matter on here. God, over 6 months ago. Rank Barrichello, Bottas, and Webber skill-wise. Barrichello, Webber, Bottas, in that order. Barrichello was a genuinely underrated driver. Drove really well for Stewart back in the day. I think Barrichello could have challenged for a title if he was in a different team that wasn't built around Michael. I think he was a very good driver in his own right, and I think even Webber had genuinely great pace in other cars that weren't Red Bull until a transcendent talent in Sebastian Vettel rolled up. What's Williams' future in F1? Survival. And I don't think there'll be a pseudo second team because no factory is going to be throwing around that sort of money to make that happen. Not in a global pandemic, not when everyone's trying to save money. The only reason we're getting a cost cap is because everyone's come into a circle and finally agreed that, oh my god, we're all spending too much money. So I don't think there's going to be any sort of big partner deal with the Mercedes factory team. Because if Mercedes really wanted to do that, they could have done it years ago. They could have done it with Manor, and they chose not to. They had both their factory junior drivers driving for that team at the same time at one point. And it never happened. Yeah, we forget Barrichello was a title contender in 2009, and after Button had that big early stretch in 2009, Barrichello was like the better Brawn driver at that point in time. Towards the end of the year, he was the one that took over for Button to a degree. Warwick, if anything, I'd argue the opposite. Like, actually, no, take that back. I read your message wrong. You're actually right, definitely. What new team would I add? Would you like in the future? I don't care who. I would just like to see more teams. The problem is the way the sport is calibrated right now. The fact there's now a £200 million entry fee to get into the sport has now made it virtually impossible for new teams to roll up. The tech is still only going to get more expensive, even if you can't spend all your money in the world to develop it. The hybrid turbo era is twice as expensive as what the V8s were. Obviously, you can't go back to that, but at the same time, the operating costs are through the roof. And now you're telling any new team to spend $200 million up front to enter the sport. The only way we're going to see a quote-unquote new team is if somebody buys out a team that's already on the grid. And there's only really one team where that's a possibility right now, and that's Haas. So, as much as I would like to see new teams, I also realistically know that it's not going to happen. As Cam points out in the chat, the only company with that sort of money is VW. And they'd have to build a team from scratch. And you are not spending over £1 billion to enter the team from scratch. Like, unless they buy a team out. And that rule was like, I find it incredibly irritating that the sport, like, the sport finally makes some actions that tries to balance the field out and tries to reduce running costs, and then they slap a £200 million entry fee for a new team, basically wiping out any possibility of that happening. Way to go, guys! Like, no factory entity is out here burning $200 million in cash before they even start. It's crazy. Trey, your desk vibrates when you get animated and hit it. Oh dear. Is the death of F1 sooner than we think? No. As long as factories still want to take part, F1 will still be a thing. They will have to have something drastic happen and then they will adapt. But it would take something cataclysmic in order for that to happen. But look, it took a major factory, pseudo-factory team laying off 1,200 staff before people finally realised, wait, maybe capping how much the teams spend might be a good thing in the long run. The sport won't die, but they need to realise what its issues are, and quickly. That entry fee is in place because F1 decided it has 10 franchises and that's that. I wouldn't even say that. I wouldn't even say that in the sense of, it's not that because they decided they want 10 teams. It's more that they want guaranteed financial security of knowing that a team is in it for the long haul. But that's not the way you do that. You're not going to say, oh, well, you know, you're definitely committed because you're going to spend $200 million up front. Well, now you've just made the hurdle of entry infinitely bigger. Panfera was talking about joining Formula 1. Then the entry fee limit went up to 200 million quid. And then it was like, well, that makes it really hard now. It's not going to happen. Like, the cost cap is long overdue. Long overdue. I'm shocked it took this long. But you know, it is what it is. Yeah, you guys, like Libby's right. It was meant to be put in place when Hispania, you know, Hispania, Mauritius, and Caterham joined, but there was too much infighting. Like they were like, oh, we'll enter the sport, and it was like, great, we'll have 24 cars on the grid. You are going to bring in a cost cap, right? And F1 was like, yeah, of course we will. And it didn't materialise. And then those 3 teams all died within 5 years. Great. Questions. Still misses the Siggy money, certainly. And yeah, it says it all. DTM's going to GT3s after all. What's the one track I'd love to have on the calendar? Honestly, I was spoiled in 2020 in that a lot of tracks that I liked, the F1 had ran before or dropped, all came back. Like the Nürburgring, genuinely good race this year. Portimao, slightly above average. Imola isn't fit for F1 in its current purpose. But, you know, I'll get into Imola another point. Imola's one of my favourite tracks ever, but Imola is still a little bit hard to watch for me as a Formula 1 fan due to Ayrton Senna. Let's put it to you that way. It brings back unsavoury memories. It's one of my favourite tracks ever, but it is also not the best.
Show yourself, then show.
Whoa. Volume way too loud there. Last call for questions, folks. Yeah, I'm like, I agree in the sense of the Imola is a great track to drive around. It's a driver's track. It is not a track to make great racing with. Not when downforce is king in most motorsport series these days. So yeah, if you want to get a question in, you got 3 minutes. If I see it in the chat before 9 PM, I'll answer it. Race win for Seb next year, yes or no? No. A lot of bullshit would have to happen still. Will Vietnam ever happen? Probably not, Warwick. What are my plans till I can get back to work? Honestly, build new PC, see what I can do to help with M101, and just rest more than anything else, man. My job is one where I'm working 50 to 60 hours a week on average, and trying to juggle that, running a podcast, trying to be an F1 or motorsport journalist, and on top of that, is a lot. In a sense, I've been lucky because I wasn't put on furlough. I've been paid in full during this downtime, and I've technically not worked for 5 months of the year. So I can't really complain on that front. But, you know, it's hard out there. And honestly, being in Tier 3 while working did a number on my mental health. And honestly, I need to do more to work on me, personally. I masked a lot of shit in 2020, to say the least, and I've not spoken about it in great depth because I just don't have a lot of people to talk to on that front, to be honest. Like, there's stuff that I don't even like discussing with my own mum about things in my life, so it's been hard. Like I said, I came into the year off a bad breakup. That did my health in no wonders. That was awful to have to go through. I had the best year of my life from a purely journalism standpoint, but it was also overwhelming and stressful. And then I was still juggling a 50-hour a week job, and a job that is usually difficult, you know, as it is, from a mental health standpoint, because I'm in a bookies. You're dealing with a lot of gambling addicts, you're dealing with a lot of people that, you know, are addicted, have mental health issues, you're not trained to deal with mental health issues, and then they're losing money. And then they take that out on you because they think you're rigging the machine, or they see you as the physical embodiment of the bookies taking their money, so they need an outlet for their frustration. And we're not really trained to deal with mental health issues, and we can't really stop people from gambling. So when you're juggling all of that, life can be hard, man. Like, honestly, it can be really goddamn hard. And when you're juggling that much, you know, you feel a lot more lonely because, as I said, you know, didn't have a girlfriend anymore. You know, was dealing with that, dealing with a stressful job, trying to make podcasts, trying to make videos, write blogs, all of that crazy shit. It's a lot. Like, I mentioned it earlier on Twitter earlier this week, this is the first Christmas I've had off in 10 years. Because I have a colleague that also has a knack of taking Christmas off on annual leave. Now, I've been in the gambling industry 5 years now, nearly. So, it's been a lot this year. So, if I have one resolution for 2021, it's just look after myself a bit more than anything else. Because shit's tough. And it's going to be hard because, honestly, being a fan of Formula One on social media is getting worse and worse year on year. Twitter is a cesspool, unfortunately. If anyone knows many of my peers in this space, like Hazel, for example, you don't need me to tell you how much of a shitstorm Formula, following the sport is on Twitter, and that is my main hub. That is where most of my audience is. So you can't avoid it in that sense. So look, my follower count doubled this year, and that is a blessing. I am so grateful and glad that there are twice as many people out there reading my shit compared to 2019. But it's a lot. And Formula One, from an audience standpoint, is becoming what football Twitter is. And like the bad kind of football Twitter, where it's people that are trying to be brands, naming their accounts after players. Yes, there is an element of stan Twitter that's taken over. There are elements that, there are subsets of fan culture that is toxic and awful, and I wish I could do more. I wish I could do more to help. I wish I could do more to be a positive influence on that, because there's only so much I can do. And look, I'm gonna be real with you here. There is a level of privilege that comes with my job, even though I'm black, because I'm a man. And I had it bad this year. I can't even begin to imagine how people like Hazel have had it, or how Amelia's had it, who you've probably seen her tweet do the rounds in the last couple of days, and how someone's 16 years of age and there are people in group chats hoping that they get raped. Sorry for the upsetting talk, but that's the space I'm in. It's infinitely frustrating when you see peers, people you care about, because Hazel's a very good friend of mine on a personal level, and she's been one of the people that's helped me out through this year more than a lot of people will know. It pains me to see the struggle that a lot of people have to go through on this platform. It shouldn't be so toxic to be a fan of something that you love. And if we're harassing people, doxing people, sending rape threats to people over having a difference of opinion, we're too far fucking gone, as far as I'm concerned. And I know I've gone on a tangent to a degree in the last few minutes, but I had to get that off my chest because I don't want to start another shitstorm on Twitter, but it's just, Twitter needs to do better. They need to start IP banning people, but that would probably be seen as too controversial. But it's the same 15, 20, 25 people that always pop up with the same accounts. And I've gotten it, and I've gotten it in the neck from certain people before. And it's a drop in the bucket compared to what some other people have gone through. And yeah, I hate that being a fan of something that I genuinely love doing can be so toxic and be so problematic. But if there's one thing that I will vow, it's that I will work hard to try and be a positive influence in this space. And I'm not perfect, by all means. I've been aggressive and brutish before, and I've had to dial myself down and show restraint on numerous occasions, but yeah, let's hope 2021 is a brighter year, a year that's kinder to all of us, and I just hope that we can do more with the platform that we've got. And look, I'm incredibly blessed to have, God, 35 of you watching me on 9 p.m. on a Sunday night right now, when in the middle of Christmas, and you think I'm worthy of your time. That's an honor. That's something that I take incredible value in, and I never ever take that shit for granted. So that's something I'm gonna try and work hard to try and do in 2021, is just be good to each other, people. And look, if you're sitting in here watching me right now, I know you're not one of the bad ones. No kidding. Like, honestly. But it's frustrating. It is frustrating to watch from the outside looking in. It's frustrating to be a part of it sometimes. And we could all do a little bit better. And unfortunately, we're on a site that, most of us are on a site that doesn't have consequences for what people do and say. And until that happens, it's gonna keep happening. And you guys in the chat are very, very kind. I can see all your comments right now. You're very generous, and I'm very grateful for all of you. That, again, I've always said, and I said this regarding the Mazepin situation, in that you vote with your time, your wallet, and your remote. That makes the difference as to whether someone gets supported or not, whether someone gets your time. It's not hashtags or social media campaigns. It's time, effort, and money. And you guys have always given me your time, always been generous, you know. And I'm incredibly thankful for that, so thank you. Just getting the pedantic stuff out of the way. If you want to follow me on Twitter, if you really do want to hear more of my shit, which I don't know how, you can follow me on Twitter at Harrison101HD. You probably already are following me if you're watching this chat or watching this stream, because again, I pumped it up on Twitter the most, so huzzah. I promise, as long as the UK and as long as London's still in tier 4, I will try to get one of these in every couple of weeks. Just to check in with you guys more than anything. This is actually quite cathartic, talking into a webcam for 2 hours and chatting with a great portion of people. And you know, I'm very grateful for that. So thank you. If you're new, why not like and subscribe? We put the podcast out whenever we can. Again, I wish I could give you time dates on future episodes going up. Unfortunately, we're a little bit behind. King is working very hard to edit these episodes. He's a one-man crew at the moment. I wish we could do more to help him, but unfortunately we're limited in what we can do. Definitely one of my big goals for 2021 will be trying to get more content out, more of me on YouTube, certainly as well. Because unfortunately the algorithm likes it when you upload it every day, and it's really hard to do that in this sport. You know, so you try your best, but it's a hard grind when, you know, me, RJ, Cam, and King all work full-time jobs alongside this. Unfortunately, we don't make anywhere near enough to pay ourselves a massive amount, and anything we do maybe put back into the show or back into our Discord to upgrade that so we can record better. You get the gist. But thank you. We're on facebook.com/motorsport101. You can follow the podcast itself at motorsport_101. And if you really, really like us, you can back us financially on Patreon. Patreon.com/motorsport101. I would normally go into the tiers, but as a promise, everything will be in the $5 tier until we're caught back up. You heard it here first on YouTube, and I'm in charge of what the Patreon features. I believe it is only fair, if you guys have to wait a month or two for a new episode, that it's only fair that you shouldn't have to pay all that much extra for it. I know that it's never ideal to be behind the 8 ball, but we're trying very hard. Let's put it to you that way. And I promise, as soon as they're done, we'll get them up. We're on Instagram as well, at Motorsport101pod, if you want to follow us on there. Extra content, bonus clips, archived footage, all of that fun stuff, hopefully. you know, thanks, Steve. I see the chat. Like, I know you don't mind them being that. Libby, you don't have to back us on Patreon. God damn it, no. You're gonna make me blush. Stop it. But normally $5 gets you early access to all of the audio versions of the show. You can upgrade to the $10 version if you want all the videos early, as well as access to the supporters club on our Discord server, where you can listen to our shows live as they're being recorded. The way it's going right now, that might be the best way to really get, you know, up to the minute takes from all of us, is to probably be a backer on Patreon and be in the supporters club on Discord, because we record those every Wednesday pretty much. I think next week will be our last regular show for a month or so, because the Autosport Top 50 is due. So that should be fun. Unfortunately, again, we're behind. I think we're 4 episodes behind right now, but we'll get them up as soon as we can. So yeah, patreon.com/motorsport101, and also if you want to back on the website, motorsport101.com for all the details on us, all the written blogs as well, all our episodes, all our videos are on there as well. So everything you need is on the website. But one more time, I hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas. Enjoy the holiday season as best you can. And I probably won't see you guys on here until 2021, so I wish you guys a wonderful new year. Happy New Year, everybody. I hope 2021 brings brighter times, and I hope it looks after us a little bit better. Look after yourselves, look after each other. You know, stay healthy, stay safe out there. Most importantly, we still are in the middle of a global pandemic after all. But thank you guys. Look after each other. All the best in 2021, and I will catch you guys on the flip side. Thank you all so much, and yeah, Happy New Year, guys. Take care.